All right. So the thing that I wanted to talk to you guys today about is something that a lot of people just skip over. They glaze over this all the time. They don't think it's very important, but that's going to be the importance of a maintenance phase when we're talking about long-term success for fitness, right? Or just health in general, right? So when it comes to fitness, again, most people just focus on two main goals: losing fat, gaining muscle. That's what we all want to do, right? We don't want to kind of be stuck at idle. We want to be doing something all the time, right? But what gets overlooked a lot of the times is the critical phase between the two, and it's called the maintenance phase. Sometimes I'll call it a holding phase. They're the same thing. So initially, a maintenance phase is when you intentionally, oh, we're going to hold your body weight, we're going to hold your body composition, the calorie intake steady. And while all this might not sound very exciting, as compared to fat loss or muscle building, maintenance is actually the key to keeping that long-term success and that long-term progress going. So if you're constantly stuck in this cycle of bulking, cutting, yo-yo dieting, you're never taking the time to maintain the physique that you have, right? You're missing a pretty crucial piece of the puzzle. Um, so if we look a little bit deeper into what actually is a maintenance phase. So a maintenance phase, again, it's a period to where your goal is to just sustain what we've currently have been doing, right? Such as your body weight, your body composition. We kind of just want to let the car idle. That's what we're trying to do, right? This means eating after maintenance calories, which is the amount of food required to maintain your current body weight without losing or gaining any weight at all. It also going to involve, maintaining that current workout a routine without doing anything crazy, not trying to progress at a tremendous rate or on the flip side of that, just getting lazy. Pretty much let's hold where we're at. Don't do anything crazy. Let's not start running 3 extra miles a day just because, oh, I'm in a maintenance phase. I'm bored. Let me go run 3 miles extra and let me speed up the process. No, that's not the point of a maintenance phase. You're doing more harm than good in that sense. So, um, it needs to be said though, a maintenance phase isn't just about coasting or slacking off. It should be a strategic period to where your body adapts, recovers, and kind of solidifies that progress that you have just made before moving into another goal focused phase, right? So now let's look into actually why maintenance is critical for long term success. So the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things, is that it prevents, yo-yo dieting. So one of the biggest reasons that people struggle with long-term success when it comes to fitness, whether that's gaining weight, like muscle, or losing, body fat, is the constant up and down, extreme dieting, weight gain. If you've never spent time maintaining your progress, you risk pretty much undoing everything that you have done, right? And that's like a lot of you. Like for Ernesto, for instance, I posted about him this morning on my Instagram. It took us a while to build his calories up to where he needed to be, and we had to go into a holding phase. But we just didn't, bump those calories up and up, and then the next day we turned around and then cut the calories out, right? We built things up and then kind of plateaued for a little bit, held things, hopped into a maintenance phase for a little bit, and then we started to go back down. And so I guess another way to think about that is if you're, let's say me, for instance, I'm eating like 5,000 ish calories a day, right? And if I wanted to start a cut, I'm not going to just instantly drop down to 3,000 calories. Whatever progress that I've just made is not going to stick around for long. I guess the best way to explain this is you kind of have to let your progress marinate, right? If you marinate a chicken breast, right, and you leave it in the marinate for 20 minutes as compared to a full day, right, that full day chicken is going to taste a heck of a lot better than the 20 minutes, right? You kind of have to let that new progress that you have just instilled marinate in a sense. Um, And then another important thing is the metabolic adaptation and the recovery of the metabolism. So your metabolism isn't static, right? It moves all the time and it adapts based on your energy intake. For example, when you diet for a long time, you're a chronic dieter, is what I like to call you. You're a person who thinks that 1,000 calories a day is what you need to be doing to lose weight, right? You're a chronic dieter. Your metabolism slows down due to decreased caloric intake, and along with that comes hormonal changes. This maintenance phase kind of helps reset that metabolism. It'll help bring back your hormonal balance and also, improve your energy levels as well too. So doing this phase is going to make fat loss, or if you're on the flip side of things, muscle gain, a lot more effective. You can't be at these low, let's just call them suboptimal levels for a long time, right? It's just going to cause problems in the long run. You probably know people who say, "Oh, I'm eating 800 calories a day and I'm just not losing weight. It must be me, or it must be my genetics, or blah blah blah." No, it's your metabolism has ramped so far down that you now need to reverse that up and get it back to where it needs to be. And then more or less maybe like a mental thing as well too. This is gonna improve adherence and sustainability. No one, including me, wants to be on a strict diet forever. If you constantly feel deprived, you want this certain food, but you can't quote unquote have it, right? You're more than likely to binge or just quit your diet altogether, right? Now, this maintenance phase allows you to enjoy more, of a balanced lifestyle, still while prioritizing your fitness goals. And this is kind of where counting macros comes into play. Especially if you have a higher calorie number that you can play with, right? You can throw some of those uh, tasty desires, I guess, is kind of what it boils down to, into your meal plan and still quote unquote stay on track, right? You can loosen up on food restrictions and still enjoy, or still have a social life. And doing this is, in the long run, is going to help you develop those sustainable eating habits without the fear of just losing all of your progress. Um, Now, if we're on the flip side of things and we're talking about muscle retention and growth, during a fat loss phase, muscle loss can occur, and that doesn't matter if you're a natural bodybuilder or a lifestyle client that's doing things the natural way, or if you're an enhanced person who's using supplements to help you get to your goal. Muscle loss is more than likely going to occur, especially if you're in a prolonged caloric deficit, with cardio at play as well too. So this maintenance phase is going to help, your body hold on to the muscle that you've worked for, um, allowing for more proper growth and recovery as well too. And those who strength train and train hard and with intensity, and actually get after it, right? This maintenance phase can be a good time for you to kind of pull back, or refine your technique. Take your videos, send them to me, improve your strength, improve your form, get the form down pat. While we're in this maintenance idle holding phase, that way when we flip the switch and go the other way, whether that's in a fat loss or a muscle gain, you can then attack those workouts with intensity, but also with intent, not just doing the movement for the sake of saying that you did the movement, right? And then the last thing is, this kind of goes along with the mental side of things. It helps to reduce mental burnout. Um, I mean, I'll be the first to tell you if you're doing a long duration caloric cut, like I do when I prep for my shows, they're typically 20 to 24 weeks. That's half a year, right? And when you're doing that day in, day out, day in, day out, no cheat meals, nothing's missed. You're eating the exact same thing for half the year, right? That seems like an eternity. It can be exhausting mentally. I'll be the first to tell you. But that maintenance phase, it'll give you a much needed mental break, and even, just a day or two of, what somebody likes to call a diet break, which those are like, 1 or 2 days that you go back to maintenance. And then you hop back into the aggressive cut. those 1 or 2 days can really just kind of, rejuvenate your motivation, right? I mean, if you're at a very low calorie, let's say if you're at 1,500 calories and you get a 2 day refeed of, let's say, 3,000 calories, you're going to feel awesome. Okay, I can sustain this a little bit longer. And again, it kind of helps with that mental burnout. But again, those phases at maintenance are important, not just for the mental side of things, but also, the hormonal, the metabolic, things like that. Now, how do you actually implement a maintenance phase? It's pretty simple. If you're in a cut, you are going to want to gradually increase your caloric intake, aka a reverse diet, or if you're in a surplus, decrease it until you get to a point to where your weight is only, fluctuating 1 to 2, maybe 3 pounds a week. So if you're in even, 200 pounds, it might be 200, 200, 199, 200, 201, 200, 199. You're in that, 1 to 2, maybe even 3 pound range. More than likely, if you're eating 2,500 calories, or whatever that maintenance number for you is, and your weight's staying pretty steady, then that's your maintenance. And this is going to be, different for a lot of people, right? If you was to go on, a calorie calculator or something online, right, and type in my stats, right, it's going to probably tell you that I should probably have a maintenance of, I'm just going to guess, maybe 2,800, maybe 3,000, maybe. But I'm eating 5,000 calories a day and staying at 198 pounds. This is because of that, that metabolic adaptation on the other end has taken place, right? Because if we think about it, on the other end of the spectrum, if you're eating a very low amount of calories, right, that a metabolic rate is going to adapt down a good bit, right? But on the flip side, it works the exact same way too. Now, granted, I didn't go from 3,000 to 500, 5,000 over a night, right? This took several months for me to slowly build this up. It's kind of like taking a reverse diet farther than you should take it. But everybody's different and everybody's body responds a little bit different. So now, as far as training goes, and activity levels, continue strength training, the same intensity, the same that you have been. Just don't do anything extra extreme. There's no need for you to start throwing in extra supersets, drop sets, rest pause fails, all that good stuff. There's no need for any of that. We're going to focus on consistency rather than overloading your body with excess stress and volume that is not needed during this actual phase. And then allowing flexibility in the diet. Again, using macros is a good tool here. And then obviously, monitor your feedback. How does your body feel? How are you sleeping? Do you feel stronger? Are you energized? What's your fasting blood glucose? How's your digestion? Look at all that biofeedback, which is why that I asked you guys that stuff every week. And let's see, are we truly at a maintenance phase, or is your body still stressed out? And we can tweak a few things and get you to a better maintenance number, if that makes sense. Now, the big question everybody always asks, how long should a maintenance phase last? So let's say if you're, in a reverse diet, for example, and we've met your quote unquote ideal caloric number, right? How long should you stay in that maintenance phase? Well, this is not a one size fits all answer. If it was, it would make my job a heck of a lot easier, but it's not. The biggest struggle for on the coach's standpoint is convincing the client that they need to wait, right? If you think about it, if you're reverse dieting for 6 months, right? Let's be realistic here. You're not going to hop into a maintenance phase for 2 weeks and be able to go back down, right? It's going to be 4 to 8 weeks, right? It could be 1, 2, 3, 4 months. I'm a part of a Facebook group. It's a fitness, Facebook group type thing. And people, bounce ideas off of each other. And there was a guy that told me at one time he had a girl in a reverse diet for a little over a year, and she spent almost 8 months at a maintenance phase. Her biofeedback was improving, but it took a long time. Now, granted, was this girl doing everything that she was supposed to be doing? I don't know, but that whole 1 to 2 week and then we can hop back into progress typically isn't the case. For me, I like to see people at least hold it for a month. Let's just, see where we're at. If we think that we can make that move and start, cool. If I think it's too soon, then we won't. We might wait another week or two. The big thing here though is you don't want to start too soon. If you start too soon, you're really cutting down what you can actually do, right? So again, if you've been a dieter for a long time, the longer the maintenance phase might be necessary. If you've done a shorter or reverse time, then again, that maintenance phase might not have to be so long, right? And then just to wrap things up, maintenance you shouldn't see maintenance as like a pause button, right? To where like, all right, let me kick back, let me relax, let me get a little bit lax on my food. This is a step that a lot of people just flat out skip. It's not exciting. I get it, but if you really want to set yourself up for longer term success, you need to treat these maintenance phases as you would a muscle gaining phase or a fat loss phase. Again, it might not be the most exciting and flashy thing, but if you implement this and do it strategically, you'll see your progress skyrocket. Like you've never had before if you haven't used this in the past. So, with that being said, anybody got any questions about maintenance phases? About how any of that stuff works? Anybody at all?
I always got a question. Anyway,
I appreciate it.
um, I guess just in terms of how long do you think it takes for people to figure out, generally speaking, about how like that you are at maintenance? Like how long of a process does that typically take to figure out?
Yeah, I would say probably 1 to 3 weeks, somewhere in there. If you're tracking your food and you're like really tracking it religiously, like you're tracking every single thing that you intake, and you do it for 7 days, and you've been 200 pounds for 7 days straight, and the food has stayed the exact same, your step count has been the exact same, everything is pretty much the same, right? Then you're fine. But if you're a little more lax with it and you're not as detailed as you should be, probably take 2 or 3 weeks and then average, 14 to 21 ish days, right? Um, and that's why, I like for people to track their food before I start making, their plan for that 4 to 5 ish days. If I was being realistic, and this is not a slight to anybody in here, but if people are more patient, I would get you guys to track for at least 7 days in a row. That way that I get 5 full weekdays and then 2 weekends, right? Because a lot of people eat drastically different during the week as compared to the weekend. And so that average, is kind of what we need to look at. But again, that 4 to 5 day ish average that I ask, for the majority of people is typically enough to get me fairly close. But if you're tracking hard and you're actually taking it serious, a week. But if you're a little bit lax, I would do 2 or 3 weeks, somewhere in there. So.
And do you ask people to track even if they're like either using a prescribed meal plan or something like that?
Well, so yours is a little bit different because you come on with the September Shred challenge thing or whatever. So typically, I think everybody else here joined on regular time, but yeah. So typically, like I'll have them track, for 4 to 5 days in a row. I'll get that average. Let's say if the average, after out of that 5 days is 2,000 ish calories, right? And the weight, pretty much stayed the same. All variables considered, right? That's where we'll start at. Does that mean that that's your maintenance? No. Um, Typically, people like to clean up their diet once they know that I'm going to be looking at things. So I take all that stuff into consideration. But the gist of it is, you know, if Miss Roxanne came into the program and said, "Hey, I think I'm eating 1,000 calories a day. I'm not losing weight." I'm like, all right. Okay, cool. Let's track it. And then she comes back and, oh God, I meet 1,800 a day. That's a pretty big gap. And I think the majority of you in here know Brandon. There was Sin Health and Wellness. He shared an article with me the other day that I think it was 64% of participants in like a nationwide study they were asked to track their like macros and calories or whatever. And these are people like us that know how to track them, right? 64% of those people were marginally off, like 500 plus calories off of what they actually thought they were eating. Just small marginal errors add up. Um, so I know that's kind of going off on a different topic, but that's why it's important to track, just to know. Now, granted, if you're working with me, obviously, I'm everything is already tracked for you. If you're sticking to to the meal plan, but if not, it's just good to know where you're at, just what it boils down to. So, anybody else got any questions at all? Well, if not, I guess forever hold your peace. And we will end the call. So, and if we don't have and if keep watch the news. If a plane goes down going from Greenville to Columbus, me and Jacob are probably on the plane. So, RIP. But with all these crashes going on now, I hope we're good. I hope we're good, but we'll see. Um,
You bite your tongue, sir.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about that, but now it's stuck in my head.
Well, I
I mean,
mean,
it is what it is. Unless
those can at least just land upside down. I don't know. And get
hey, they
get
give them
breathed out or
passenger.
not.
They give those. I think Delta or whoever it was. I think they settled. They're going to give each passenger like 30 grand
30,000.
if
Yeah.
if they want to flip that plane and I got my seatbelt on and I'm just hanging upside down like a bat for an hour. Yeah, I'll do it for 30 G's. Sign me up. Um, anyway, I appreciate y'all showing up. Um, and for some of you, I'll have your check-ins done here shortly, and for the other ones, I will have you guys tomorrow once you send them. But outside of that, thank you guys for showing up, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Right.
See y'all.
Yeah.